Okay, so this is the same size document as the last one. It's 1920 by 1080 pixels. And I'm going to go ahead and create a different type of shape. An octagon, I think is what I said I was going to try last time. So I'm going to go to Polygon, and I'll draw my shape, and I'll add a couple of more sides in here, so that gets me 8 sides. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I just want to start to create a pattern. So I'll do it this way. Hold the Option key down and do a couple of deletes, or rather D's. I want to make the whole thing a little bit smaller, so let me go ahead and shrink it all down. So double click on here, and I think I'll drop it down to, let's see what 30% looks like. Yeah, that looks a little tighter. Okay, so, whoops. So I'm going to select these and move them over here. And now I want to repeat my grid. I'm going to change them all to white in a second. And I'll do that a couple times over. So I have some options in here. I can either repeat it directly underneath, like that, or I can lock it in like that as well and have them go every other one. I think I'll go ahead and just put it underneath for now, holding the Option key down. Do a couple of repeats, Command D. It's really important that the points line up exactly on top of each other, and you need to look for that snap right there so that the arrow turns white, and that lets you know that the points are on to snap. Okay, so I want to repeat these a couple of times over. So there's that snap. Option key, making a copy. Okay, so now, as interesting as this might potentially look, the white spaces in here might be getting in the way. So I really want those filled. So the easiest way to fill this is to use the Pathfinder tool and take advantage of this multifaceted division in here. So that'll divide all the artwork into a bunch of subsections. And just so that you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to put everything into one color. So right now this is, if I do a select all and move this over, you can see that the spaces between the polygons are holes. And I don't want them to be holes. I want to be able to select them and modify them if I need to. So the way I'm going to get them all to fuse as individual pieces is by creating a rectangle and putting it underneath. So I'll go ahead and create a rectangle, and I'm going to just click and drag across here. Everything's going to go away here for a second. It's all black, and just so we can see what's going on, I'll change the color to, I'll make it a lighter green. Okay, so now I'm going to send it to the back, Command Shift and the bracket key, and that sends everything to the way back. And now I can select everything, and I can go to my Pathfinder tool, and I can go ahead and use this. And that subdivides everything. So everything's been broken up into their own little pieces. Okay, so in here, now you'll see that I can come in here and grab this as a background, and you can see that I'm moving the background out of the way, and it leaves those smaller little pieces. So all of this stuff I don't want, so I'll just delete that. And now if I move one of these pieces out of the way, you can see, oops, I'm going to select just that. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit closer just so we can see what I've got going on. Okay, so now I can click on that and move that out of the way, and you can see now I'm looking through the original polygons that I had. Okay, so let me do a Command 0, and now I want everything to be white with a black stroke. So I'll select everything, and I'll reset the foreground and background colors here. And so now I've got, it's a little hard to tell, but I've got a bunch of polygons here that are white triangles and white stop signs, or rather diamonds. and white stop signs. So now I've got the same process as before. I go to my layers, I add a layer, and I'll lock the bottom one just so I don't select it by accident. And I'll come over here and I'll type in the letter A. And again, like last time, I want to kind of size it up to determine where would be the best compound. I think I like that there. I'm looking at these two, possibly including these, or maybe that one. But I want to make sure that there's some symmetry to it. Sometimes it might be worth making the letter bigger. Let's try that. So this was, I think, at 8. Yeah. So let's see what 9 looks like. And again, I'm just trying to see where the letter lines up with my grid. So almost made it to the top. I think that'll work for me right there. Okay, so same as before, we'll lock this one. And whoops, I forgot to turn it gray. So I'll select everything here. And then I'll go to my transparency values. And I'll make that 20% gray. And now I'll do an F7 to get back to my layers so I can lock that. And then like last time, I just go ahead and start selecting the rectangles or the polygons with the shift key down. So we'll see what they look like. And again, once these things are selected, I'll be able to play around with them and determine which ones I want to turn off and on. So you got to, oops, I accidentally moved it. Don't want to move anything. It's important that the grid lines up and things don't shift on you. Okay, I want that one. Okay, I think that's enough for me to take a look at. So I'll go ahead and reverse this out. And that's kind of interesting. I honestly think I might be able to live with that as is. Let me do a Command C for copy. And I'll come down here and I'll paste it just to see what it's starting to look like. So that's interesting. And I'm intrigued by these little barbs over here. I think I want them on the other side. So I'll go ahead and delete that. And I'll come back over here and I'll turn these on. So shift is my selection option is on. So I'll select that one. Looks like this one could be turned on. This one looks like it could be on. Again, I'm going just for very clean symmetry. You don't have to. You can make your design somewhat asymmetrical. So let's see what that does. And so I'll go ahead and do a select same appearance, copy that, and then I'll slide down in here and paste it and see what that's looking like. So that's the general idea. And I mean, it's kind of interesting to see this with the white space. I suppose that would be an option for the letter. And if you want that, if you want it to be outlined, let's do a variation of this. So I'm going to make a copy over here. And okay, so right now I'm interested in having this kind of white space between here. So I'm going to select everything in here. And I'm going to go ahead and increase the size of my stroke. So let's make that, let's see what 5 looks like. Okay, that's pretty beefy. That's beefy enough to make it look interesting. Okay, so I'll select this. And now what I want to do is I want to go to my object path. And what I want to do is I want to create shapes out of my strokes. So outline stroke. And that's generating the white strokes. And then I'm going to go back in here with my Pathfinder tool again. And I'll use this time, same one rather, I'll use the divide. And that divides everything into pieces. And so now what I want to do is I want to select anything that's white. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and select the same appearance. and I'm going to delete those. And that gives me the object that I wanted. It looks like it left some residue over here on the edge. And so let me see if I can click that and see what that is, if it's a stroke. So it's a fill. I can't do a select same because then it's going to select everything. Yeah, can't use that. So the easiest thing to do is just grab the direct selection tool and then hold the shift key down and select all the pieces that I do want. So I'll speed that up just a little bit. This isn't actually going to take that much longer, but just to save you guys the grief of watching me click, I'm speeding it up so I'm really not moving this fast. It's all an editing trick, and that'll do it. Okay, so I'll move these out of the way. Whoops, missed some. And do Command 3. I'm just hiding. Command 3, Command 3. Select everything that's left, delete that. Option, Command 3. That'll reveal it. So that's another possibility in terms of how you work with the typeface. This one over here, I wanted to make it solid as the last one. So here I'll go ahead and get rid of the strokes. And in the Pathfinder, I'll go ahead and I'll do a one big giant merge. And so then I've got that thing going on like that. I think this is a little bit more interesting. Okay, so those are two techniques for working within a grid and creating some type of a mosaic typeface. And I did it with a stop sign. Any kind of grid you want to use is certainly a possibility. The trick is, to some degree, try to keep it as simple or rhythmic as possible. If the grid gets a little too out of control, it may not give you the results that you want.